After years, decades of mediocrity. Oh, we're going to be a second round exit. Oh, we're going to be a first round exit. Oh, we have Jordan Poole on our... The Wizards, the Washington Wizards, ladies and gentlemen, and those in between, might have finally turned it around. They might have finally done a thing, got a good young core into the building that can lead them to something great, because they knocked this draft out of the park. Now, I'm going to walk you guys through the picks they made, why I'm high on them, why I think they can be good in the future. I don't think they'll be great this season, but I think they do have a very bright future, and I think they're assembling one of the better young cores in the league. With the first pick in the draft, for a long time, we all thought it was going to be Alex Sarr, because as someone who did some draft stuff, had a board, Sarr was the obvious number one pick for a lot of people. For me, my first tier was him and Ron Holland. Looked like the best pick, right? He just seemed like the number one pick in this draft that would make the most sense. And for me, he was one of two players who would be like a top 5 pick in most classes, because this class was a weak class. He is someone whose defense is very, very good. He's going to come into the league ready to defend as a pro. He played in the NBL, so he was playing in a professional league. He was a bench player there, but he was very encouraging when he was on the bench, and he's drawn comparisons to Jaren Jackson Jr., Nick Claxton, those sorts of players. I think he'll be a little more offensively complete than Nick Claxton. I don't know if he'll be quite the shooter that Jaren Jackson is. He does have some shooting indicators. I think he will be a shooter to some degree. I just don't know to what degree his shooting will develop, but he does have good finishing inside, and his defense is excellent. So he's cornerstone for this whole thing. He is the fulcrum from which this will be built. He's the foundation, and they paired that with, in my opinion, the second best guard prospect in the draft. I had Reed Shepherd at 3, and then I had Bub Carrington. And Bub Carrington went to them at 14. They traded for it, the pick. They got him in. They did trade Denny Avdia for the pick. It was Denny Avdia for that pick and another pick in the future. But I think that Bub is a great pairing with Alex Sarr, because he is someone who has a very good offensive game. He was the youngest American player in the draft. I think the only couple of players younger than him were European foreign players, but he's not even 19 yet. His playmaking feel, his shot, his handle, all of that is great. The couple of weak spots he does have is he struggles to finish around the rim. He will need to get stronger. He will need to deal with physicality better at the next level, but he has a lot of time to grow. He has a lot of time to develop, and the Wizards aren't exactly trying to win. The ability to be patient with him long. They have the ability to let him grow into the player that he can be. They have the ability to allow those two to form a great two-man pairing, to form a pick and roll. And if you have those two with Bilal Coulibaly cutting back door, dunking it, or Bilal, he shot better than I figured he would in his rookie. He can continue developing that shot. And, I mean, Bub can play a little off-ball too. If you want to give Bilal some, ball handling with Sarr setting screens, Sarr can also take some stuff off the dribble, so if you want to have Bilal as a screener, you can do that. I'm really high on those two picks. To me, Bub Carrington's ability to manipulate the pick and roll, he made a lot of great pocket passes, and pocket passes do not necessarily mean that you're a great playmaker. They are one of the easier reads to do, but they are an encouraging read to see at the college level, and he made the right read basically every time in the games I watched, and I watched about 15 Bub Carrington games. I am just very bullish on those two moving forward, and I also really think Bilal Coulibaly is good. I think he's going to be an all defensive level guy. I think offensively, he's less raw than I figured he would be. There is still a lot of room to grow on the offensive end for him, but he did have some flashes of being a positive offensive player last season. I mean, they're still employing Jordan Poole. But they do have Corey Kispert. They have shooters that they can put around those three, space the floor for them, give them good spacing, because the more space you have to operate, the better it'll be, and the easier it'll be for you to develop. So if they currently have Bub at the 1, Bub Carrington, by the way, excellent basketball name, but Bub Carrington at the 1, Corey Kispert at the 2, Bilal Coulibaly at the 3, whoever they want at the 4, and then Alex Sarr at the 5, that's a very good lineup. Probably Kuzma at the 4 as of now, but I figure he'll be traded at some point. We will see. And I think that those two will be like a quarterback and wide receiver pairing in football. For those who watch football, You know, we saw CJ Stroud and Nico Collins, and Tank Dell form a great duo last season because they came in at the same time, and then they immediately clicked. They formed chemistry because they were the two rookies. They had to kind of, have someone to have their back, and those two were that for each other. I think it could be the same with Bub and with Alex. And also, they did get Kaishan George, who isn't anything too special, but he is like a decent 3-and-D wing, He's a good shooter. He's a pretty good athlete. I didn't watch too much of him, but from what I saw, he should be a solid role player. I think Bub could be an all-star at some point in his career. He will carry on, developing. I just buy into the shot making with him. It's hard not to for me. I buy into the 6'5" guard who has a very good handle, has very good playmaking feel, and I buy into that. I don't think his percentages tell you how good of a shooter he was, because he was on a bit of a harder shot diet at Pitt, and he just pops when you watch him. He was electric, and Alex Sarr, I think, was the obvious number one pick for a reason. I think Zachary Risachet will not be that good. I think he'll be like a 3-and-D role player, and that's fine, but not for the number one pick. To me, Sarr was the obvious number one pick in this draft because he has the most upside, maybe outside of Ron Holland. I think it's one of those two. Whoever you go with out of those two, I'm not going to argue with you, but his athletic profile, his defensive feel for the game, his defensive skills, his offensive game that does have some developing to do, but is promising from what you can see. All of that just adds together to be a very encouraging step forward for this franchise. I don't know how good they're going to be about building a roster around these two and around Bilal, but they've knocked the last two drafts out of the park. That does do something to increase my hopes for a franchise, right? They're on the right path. They're going down the right, and next year's draft is stacked. If they, tank again, if they lose, get a top 3 pick again, they could be looking at adding a Cooper Flagg at the 4. Defensive pairing of Cooper Flagg and Alex Sarr they could look at adding Ace Bailey, who is a great scorer and could be an excellent secondary scorer or primary scorer to Bub Carrington, who could set him up, could facilitate for him, or could score himself. I'm just very bullish on next year's draft class. VJ Edgecombe is another guy they could look at. They are likely in a position to add someone like that too, and I just think that people might need to start thinking about, hey, the Wizards might be one of the next best teams in the East, because by the time that Alex Sarr get their rookie extension, I think we'll be looking at a perennial playoff team in a conference that historically is as weak as the East has been. One of these years, something might break there. So if you liked this video, remember to leave a like, subscribe, comment. We're at 900 subs. I want to get to 1,000 by the time the season starts, because that would, mean monetization for me. That would be a lot. It would help me a lot. All that stuff out of the way. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys want to watch me stream, by the way, ask me questions live, I will be streaming on Dom2K's playback channel here and there throughout the offseason. I'm going to be streaming later today and tomorrow, so you could come through. I'll leave a link in the description. Top link in the description is a link to donate to Palestine. There's a genocide going on, if you're not aware of it. So if you want to donate to help, kids and that sort of thing, you can click there. But outside of that, thank you. Have a good one.